Hey gang, welcome back to Better Call Sexton. I'm your host, James Sexton. Before we begin, remember, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It really does help the channel. We have got a full docket for you today. RFK is a poet, and God, I wish I didn't know it. Gen Z and millennials, how do they approach conflict? Let's talk about it. Hitting a baseball or keeping a woman happy, which is harder? Ocho-Cinco apparently good at both of those things. A viewer comment and submission, all that and more. Let's get after it.
All right, Jim, we begin with a juicy one. The Olivia Nuzzi, RFK Jr., Keith Olbermann story. This thing is practically a movie, but at the heart of it is a woman who seems to get obsessed with powerful political men. Her ex-boyfriend is writing his Substack telling the tale. And unfortunately, we all learned about some of the proclivities of one RFK Jr., including felching. Good God, this is...
Yeah, that's just an image none of us are ever going to get out of our heads.
Ever.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just in there. It's not a good place.
And the poems he wrote her, erotic poetry from RFK saying, I'm a canyon that you need to take in. Just some really gruesome imagery. But
he looks like a dude who'd get his freak on, though. You know what I mean? Like, you don't look at him and think like that's going to be, you know, I don't know. It
ain't going to be missionary normal.
Yeah, and she's got a type too, you know? She's like as a late middle-aged dude who wears a tie, you know, I appreciate.
You got a shot, Jim.
I appreciate they're out there, but yeah, no, I'll pass.
It could be Keith Olbermann and Mark Sanford and RFK and Jim Sexton.
Wow,
talk about a body count.
That is the weirdest sports team batting order you've ever had.
Terrible
like,
blunt rotation.
Yeah, that's
just
a terrible
nightmare blunt rotation.
What a bad blunt rotation. I'm at the end of it. I mean, I'm like, don't Bogart that thing. Kennedy, pass that over here. Don't let that brainworm of yours take the extra sativa. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, you know, listen, man, I've said it before, like private lives of public figures, like once you read people's like emails and love poems and stuff like that, which I get to do like all the time in connection with divorce proceedings. And yeah, you just can't quite look at the person the same ever again. You just sort of are like, huh, that person's into that.
Tough to take medical advice from a guy who felches. I don't even know if we can describe that without getting demonetized.
No, there's almost no way to. I will admit I had to look it up. Yeah, I had to look it up. And once I looked it up, I was like, I can't unknow that now. I'd like to think that was one of those things that people like invented and it's not a real thing, you know, like the rusty trombone. Like I like to think that's not a real thing, you know, it's just something they said in 40-Year-Old Virgin in one of the better scenes. So I just don't, yeah, I don't know. I mean, also let's remember he's not a doctor. He's a lawyer. Like, so if you're going to put like a lawyer in charge of the health stuff, that's a thing that you might do. And that's what's happened here. And I'll give him his fair shake because I've represented a lot of doctors, some of whom I would not want to take medical advice from, none of whom would I take legal advice from. And I've met some lawyers that I would not take legal advice from and certainly wouldn't take medical advice from. So I really don't know. But I think that the story is interesting because, you know, we talked on a prior episode recently about age gap relationships. We talked about sort of people liking what they like and can you try to force people to like something different than what they like? And you know, look, I think there is something about desire that's certainly mysterious to all of us. How does someone get into some of these? I don't like to kink shame people. Like I genuinely, as I've said before, if it's two consenting adults and it doesn't scare the horses, it's none of my business. But how do you figure out that that's something you're into? I just don't even know. Like, it's like the feet thing. Like I can't imagine being into feet, but there's like a whole lot of people into feet. And so how do you figure out you're into feet? Like, is there just one day that you're just looking at somebody's foot and you're like, oh yeah, some of that. Like, God bless. Like if that's, you know, that's your thing. But yeah, I don't know, you know, doing what I do for a living, I see the consequences of people's inability to deny their desires. And I have to tell you, like, it's a powerful force. Like, desire is a powerful force. I have seen people lose not only half their shit, like all their shit. I've had them implode their lives over desire, their inability to control their desire. And it's fascinating to me. You know, we'll out me a little bit. This sleeve on my arm is the 7 deadly sins done as skulls. And each of the skulls represents one of the 7 deadly sins. So this one is wrath, because it's actually an anatomically correct skull with a bullet hole in its head. And then you've got envy, which is blindness to God's gifts. So it's got empty eyes. I've got greed in here. Lust is the biggest one. But I have the 7 deadly sins done. And why I'm fascinated by that, aside from the religious trauma of being raised so Catholic, is I think that it's fascinating that the 7 deadly sins are all human, natural desires and experiences taken too far. So greed is our desire to further ourselves, to have the things we need for ourselves and for the people we love, taken too far. Lust, our natural desire to connect with another person, to have sexual connection with another person, taken too far. Gluttony, desire to eat, to feed yourself, the necessity of feeding yourself, taken too far. So all of these things are natural human proclivities just taken to an extreme that it starts to blow up in our face and cause pain to us, right? So it has to be offset by virtues. Again, the fruits of the Holy Spirit, that's this tattoo on this arm. So, this is one of those things that, again, why anyone likes what they like, it's a mystery to me. But if they're consenting adults, I don't know that I would be able to keep a straight face reading the poetry that someone wrote to me of that nature. But God bless.
I'll tell you, the Substack of Ryan Lizza, who is Olivia Nuzzi's ex-boyfriend, fiance, he is writing this thing like it is a novel and a movie. And at the heart of it is desire, because she flat out said, I have become obsessed with first Mark Sanford and then RFK, to the point that she was like, I can't control myself. Yeah. And they, as older men, were loving this younger woman, desiring her. And then he, desiring this girlfriend, was willing to try to work through all of it. And it all at the root of it is people who can't control how much they want this thing.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I get that this is like a Peyton Place thing happening, like all at once, that it's like all of these desires all colliding in different ways. It's like, it's like the movie Magnolia. It's like 5 things all happening and they're going to converge in some way. It's like an Anthony Doerr novel. But I don't know, the Substack thing reads a little weird to me, because I just feel like when you, in a confessional style, tell another person's most intimate secrets, that still always feels a little icky to me.
Oh yeah, especially and it's paid. It's behind a paywall, so you're profiting.
I just feel like profiting off of like exposing somebody else's truth and private life. It feels like revenge porn is illegal in most jurisdictions. So showing the intimate photographs of another person's body without their consent is problematic. But talking about and sharing like intimacies that they've told you about their desires and preferences and feelings, that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, look, I believe in a society of free speech where people can say those things. So I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to say it legally, but it feels a little icky to me. I think that, sharing those kinds of intimate details without a person's permission, it just feels a little gross to me. It's not something I would do. I think that when someone trusts you with intimacies and their secrets, that's a tremendous responsibility. And even if you're angry at that person, even if they broke your heart, weaponizing that against them just feels kind of gross to me.
I just want to read you RFK's poem before we move on.
Wow. Can you read it in like a...
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's right.
Open your mouth, open mouth, awaiting my harvest. I mean to squeeze your cheeks, to force open your mouth. I'll hold your nose as you look up at me, encouraging you to swallow. Don't spill a drop. I am a river, you are my canyon. I mean to flow through you. I mean to subdue you and tame you, my love.
Gross. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to just throw up in my mouth.
Imagine RFK holding your nose while you swallow. No. Jesus Christ.
No, why would you even say that? Like, what is wrong with you? I thought we were friends, man. That is just fucked up. Okay, here's what I'll say. Because again, I'm really trying to glass half full on this bad boy here. Because my day job is so pessimistic. All right, you know what? Here's what I'll say. I think it's nice people are still writing poems to each other. I mean, that's nice, right? Isn't that nice?
The tiniest sliver of a silver lining.
Listen, there's a lot of women out there that are going to hear that who don't know what felching is and therefore do not get the subtext of that poem and the metaphor. And they're going to go, well, he wrote a love poem. Like there's something to be said for that. And I guess what I'll say to you is, listen, it's bad when you know what it's really about. But he wrote a poem. I mean, and he wrote her a poem. That's kind of, you get points for writing a poem.
That's why he's a lawyer, folks. He can spin anything.
But I think you get, listen, if I could defend that very well. If I was I'm not being slightly kind of subdued in my, but I would be like, hey, this man paid enough attention to write this woman a poem, and he's brave enough to talk about his desire, and he used a metaphor rather than writing a very gross description of what it is. He used some metaphors, which is very lovely, and God bless, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think we should be writing more love poems. That's what I think the moral of this story should be. I think maybe if you are into that particular act, you maybe keep that to yourself. You don't want to put that on your Wikipedia page. And but write more poems. Poems are nice.
All right, Jim, I know you love a good generational difference type topic.
I do, because I'm getting old. I'm starting to be one of those, like, you kids get off my lawn. So.
What are you, like, Gen
I'm
Q?
Gen X.
I don't even know.
Wow.
What?
Wow. What did I do to you that I'm going to be? I'm Gen X. I'm true Gen X, 1972.
So this is the difference between Gen Z and millennials when it comes to fighting in a relationship.
Okay.
And Gen Z feels that it's toxic. And that's why Gen Z has a lot of ghosting or their
Gen
conflict
Z is
avoidance.
Soft as Wonder Bread.
Quiet this and protect your
Very
peace.
conflict adverse.
Yes. Whereas millennials, they view fighting, particularly in a relationship, as more necessary. It's kind of a necessary evil that couples have to go through. What's the correct, quote unquote, approach?
I think they're both right. I think they're both products of their environment and times. I mean, I think that one of the greatest disservices we do in the world right now is we separate people from the time in which they lived. So we look at, somebody like John Wayne making racist statements, or we look at, that this person had slaves, or they benefited from slavery in some way, or this person was on the wrong side of the civil rights movement. And again, not suggesting these are things we should overlook in the scorecard of someone's life, but people are a product of their times. Like, there was a time where Howard Stern, put on blackface. Ted Danson put on blackface. I don't believe these are two racist people. I don't believe they're actually both very progressive liberals. But at the time, it wasn't really considered as offensive. Like, there was a time where the use of the N-word was not considered as offensive as it is now. Again, some people look at it and say, hey, it's tremendous progress that now those are very offensive things to say, But again, at a time, that was an acceptable thing to say, So I'm not suggesting, again, that we can't look at the past and go, wow, we needed to do better. I think there's a Joey Swoll approach to this. Like, yeah, you need to do better. But there was a time where we didn't realize that was something that people needed to do better with. So I think people are a function of the times in which they were raised. I think millennials were in an environment where conflict was a little bit more tolerated, and it was kind of okay to like yell at the sky and rage against the machine a little bit more. I think Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like, there's definitely less of that. People have been in a conflict-free environment for such a period of time that it seems like someone's yelling when they're speaking emphatically. And they're really not. They're just speaking emphatically. I say that as someone who sometimes speaks very emphatically. So I really do think that people are a product of their generations. To say this one is right and this one is wrong is to remove the thing from its context and to look at it. I think Mao Zedong said that all power stems from the barrel of a gun. That like, and what I think that is relevant to is understanding that power is situational, right? So there are situations where being white is a tremendous advantage. There are situations where being black is a tremendous advantage. That none of this is devoid of context. There's times where being a man would be a tremendous advantage. Being a woman would be a tremendous advantage. Being trans would be an incredible advantage. Being cisgender would be a tremendous advantage depending on the context. You can't remove the thing from its context, right? Being a fish is a good thing when you're in a body of water and submerged in it. Being human would be bad in that situation, right? But being a fish when you're on land would be a very bad thing. It's all context dependent. So suggesting that being conflict avoidant or conflict embracing is good or bad is to remove it from context. And I think that's right. It's like when people come into my office and they go, oh, I heard you're like a vicious, ruthless pit bull. You don't want a vicious, ruthless pit bull all the time. Like having a dog, for example, that bites a burglar breaking into your house is good, but having a dog that bites anything that comes through the door is bad when a toddler comes through your door. So you don't want a lawyer who only has one tool, and that tool is attack. And you don't want one lawyer who only has one thing, which is like, let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. You want someone who can use the right tool for the right task. I think it's the same thing. You have to just, is this the right, like when I have a lawyer on the other side of a case who's nothing but attack, great. I know everything you're going to do because I know your next move, because your next move is whatever the most aggressive move is. So it's better to have someone that you have no idea what they're going to do next. It could be aggressive. It could be nice. You don't know if wild man Jim is showing up in court or level-headed, calm, intellectual Jim is showing up in court until we get there. So you don't know which one to prepare against. And I might change it up halfway through. So that's the best way to do things is conflict avoidance is bad. Conflict embracing is bad. Just if that's your only mode. There are times where you need to move toward conflict. There's times where you need to know to stand down from conflict and avoid conflict and make it situationally dependent and keep context in mind.
In terms of a relationship, I feel like often people think before we get married, you almost have to fight. You have to know how the other person fights. How do you get through conflict? But what happens if you're in a happy relationship, things go smoothly and you just don't fight?
I think it would be I actually said in my book, I think it's a really useful exercise when you're not in a fight and you're getting along to talk about how you fight. Like, I think you can say to this person, hey, listen, at some point, we're going to get in a fight. It's probably going to be my fault. I say dumb shit. So I might just say some dumb shit. When we get in a fight, are you someone that like needs a minute? Should I like give you a little space and give you a minute and then you can kind of process it and then we can talk? Or are you the like, listen, we got to work this out right now. We can't go to bed angry type. Because here's the thing. The worst time to learn how to be in a fight is when you're in a fight. The better time is when you're getting along and there's an abundance of optimism and love towards each other to say, hey, at some point, we're just going to bump the wrong direction. Like, so when we do, just tell me, which do you prefer? Should I give you a little space or do we need to deal with this right now? Because I want, even when we fight, I want the corners we paint ourselves into to be places we can get out of. I don't want to back us into corners that we don't know how to get out of and make a bad situation worse and worse and worse by not having talked about it when we're getting along.
All right, before our reader email, this is a quick clip that I think you would appreciate. Chad Ocho-Cinco.
Ocho-Cinco.
Just an oracle of knowledge and wisdom.
Wisdom there.
He described the two hardest things for a man to do in this world.
The two most difficult things in life are hitting the baseball and keeping a woman happy long term.
Boom.
The two most difficult things in life. You hear me?
What do you think?
I mean, listen.
And which one's harder?
I suck at both. So I'll tell you right now, and I've struck out at both. You know, and we've all had the moment where like, this time I'm going to knock it out of the park. And then you just whiff it. Listen, there's some truth to that. I think what he's acknowledging is what we all know, which is that these are things that look easy, you know, and they're not, you know, but somehow there's some people that seem to be able to do it. I mean, what I'll tell you is like, if you ever study the physics of hitting a fastball, it's actually fascinating because by the time there is any perceptible change in the stance of a pitcher that they're going to throw a fastball, it's too late to start swinging. And yet people hit fastballs. Right? So there must be some energy exchange that's happening. There's some intuition that a good baseball hitter has. And so I think it really is, there's something mysterious about both of those things, you know, that a person is good at and has this proclivity. Some of it is skill and practice. And some of it is just kind of magic and talent, right? Like I think that some of the people, if you look at, I've represented a lot of professional athletes, some of them have a God-given talent. They really do. I've represented artists. I've represented musicians. They have a God-given talent. Like I remember watching that movie, This Might Get Loud, where The Edge is talking about the opening riffs of The Streets Have No Name, and like an iconic riff. And he's just like, yeah, it just like came to me in my head. And then he's like listening to it in the studio again, and he goes, yeah, it's still not exactly right. And it's like, this is an iconic riff that anyone would recognize. And he's like, it's still not what I heard in my head. Like, it's good, but it's still not what I heard in my head. there's some magic and some art in that. That's just like, it's just magic. I don't know if it's the hand of God. I don't know if it's just magic. I really don't know. But I think, hitting a fastball, making another person happy, being able to satisfy a woman or satisfy a man, like being good with people, like being sure of speech. Like when people say to me, like, Jim, how can I be a better public speaker? I can throw a bunch of suggestions at you, but I was born good at this shit. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, be born good at this. Like, how do you hit fastballs? I don't know. Be born good at it and then just work your ass off at it. So I think you get better at things with practice, but there's also a natural proclivity. If you're someone who's really bad at public speaking, I'm sure I can get you better at it. But am I going to get you to the point where you're just a dynamic, engaging speaker who's incredibly comfortable with it? Man, maybe with a lot of practice and a lot of pointers but a lot of that is just you're naturally good at a particular thing.
I'll say this. We had to compare keeping a woman happy to hitting a fastball, playing the guitar, and creating iconic art. Yeah. And I think when it comes to keeping a guy happy, it's a lot less difficult than those things.
Fuck him. That's really it, man. Like if
as Chappelle said, suck his dick and fix him a sandwich.
Yeah, that's really it. If he doesn't have a hard on, make him a sandwich. Like that's really all that it is. Like we're pretty easy creatures most of the time. Yeah.
All right, into our reader email.
Let's go.
Dear Jim, what is one to do when you realize you and your ex are just never going to have a healthy, functioning relationship? I want to co-parent, and I want to even coexist, as both of us have moved on romantically and socially, but our dynamic is still very combative, bad communication, feels like there's a lot of resentment, maybe some underlying hate, but it's been almost 10 years now, and it seems like nothing's ever going to change. So is there a point where you should just give up on trying to fix things? And if so, how do you move forward from there? Sincerely, out of options.
Listen, this is a question I've been asked hundreds of times. I always tell people a divorce is like a table. It's got 4 legs. There's you, your lawyer, her lawyer. If one leg is off, doesn't matter how nice and straight those other legs are, that table's going to be wobbly or it's going to fall down. All it takes is one unreasonable person for a divorce to get unreasonable.
So do you throw the table out? Do you just sit at a wobbly table? Do you sit on the floor?
I think you parallel parent. I think there are ways to parallel parent. Look, we'd all like to have the kind of relationship with your co-parent and ex that I had with mine, which is you can communicate with each other, you talk to each other, you work in a child-centered way, you concede the possibility of your own error very freely, you try to be cooperative and think long-term rather than fighting little battles over day-to-day skirmishes, you try to be a little egoless about the process. That requires a certain chemistry. It requires you and your partner, them and their future partners. Everybody has to kind of all be on the same page. And if one fish in that fish tank starts devouring other fish, doesn't matter how nice the other fish are, those fish are getting eaten. So it's going to be a mess. So that's when parallel parenting comes into play. And that is, how much do you really have to interact with this person? Again, perfect is the enemy of good. Yes, a perfect co-parenting situation like the kind you described, where you can be cooperative and communicative and work together, would be great. But if you can't have that, okay, all's not lost. It doesn't mean like, well, that's it, forget it. Like, look, you can parallel parent, which is you minimize how much you interact with each other. Do your pickups and drop-offs at school or at some other location so you don't have to interact with each other very often. Get one of the apps out there like Talking Parents, Our Family Wizard, any of those, where you communicate with each other just about the kids. When I do parent coordination work for people, I tell them use what I call RRs and IIs. IIs are information items. They don't require a response. RRs is where you're asking for a response from your co-parent, and make all your communications fit into one of those two things and delineate within the message. This is an II or an RR, to minimize all the back and forth, because people constantly say like, hey, I have 4 tickets to the school play. Do you want 2 of them? And all you need is, yes, I'd like 2, or no, I only need 1, or no, thanks, I'm busy that night. That's all you need. And instead the person is like, I have always attended our children's events and made them a priority, as you know. And even though you attempt constantly to cut me off from the children, you're like, dude, I just want to know how many tickets you want. So again, if you have an uncooperative co-parent, minimize how much you have to interact with them. Figure out ways to parallel parent. You can wish all you want for having a better co-parent, but you have the co-parent, you have, wish in one hand, shit in the other, and see which one fills up quicker. Like at the bottom of the day, you're stuck with the co-parent that you have. If you've done all the things you can do to improve the co-parenting dynamic, and you've checked your ego and you've done all that, and it's still not working, okay, you're not going to have that, but that doesn't mean you can't have something worthwhile and of value and relatively child-centered. It doesn't have to be perfect for it to be good. Hey, thanks so much for joining us again. Remember, please, sextonshow.com for your feedback, your likes, your dislikes, and anything else you want to gift us. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It really does help the channel grow, and it's growing exponentially, and we have you to thank for that, and we sincerely thank you. Remember to check me out on Instagram at NYC Divorce Lawyer. We love your feedback. We love seeing this channel grow, and we promise to continue making more and better content for all of you. But for now, we're adjourned.